Okay, we'll now open the January regular school board meeting. 1.1 roll call. All school board members are present. 1.2 recognition of visitors and guests. Thank you everyone that's here or watching. 1.3 pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, 1.4 correspondence and recognition. 1.41 public participation. So at this time, we will move to public participation. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please note that this is an opportunity for the board to listen. The board and administration will not be responding to comments this evening. We ask that all remarks remain respectful and appropriate. If comments become inappropriate, disruptive, or violate board policy, the speaker's time will be stopped. Please state your name before beginning to speak. We do have 2 requests tonight, Jeanette Aguilera and Krista Van Noot. You guys may come up.
Hi, my name is Krista Van Noot. I teach EL here at the high school. Jody asked me to say a few words just about how I'm feeling about everything that's going on in our town and state and country. So I wrote this last night, and then she asked me to read it today. You don't know what it is like to love each and every one of your students for 27 years. You don't know what it is like to watch your kids hide in their homes and not come to school. You don't know that these people are the soul of our community, and we will not survive without them. You don't know that an entire community's heart is breaking. And if you know and you don't care, God be with you. God help your soul. Thank you.
Okay, Jeanette.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Aguilar, and I work currently as a liaison here at the Worthington High School. I just want to say first foremost that I appreciate the effort that the school and the board is doing. I think today's statement that was made towards the community, the parents, was very much needed. I feel like everybody was waiting for that, so I appreciate that as a parent and as a community member. Today I'm here to speak on behalf of myself as a daughter of immigrants, as a staff member, and today as a voice for our students and parents from our community. Whether you agree on what is going on or not, this is our reality and this is what is happening right now. Our students are scared, our parents are scared to send off their students, not knowing what dangers they face, or not knowing if they're going to be home when they return. We just have to continue working together. This is not the first time that we've had a challenge in our community, whether it was COVID, a previous event that happened that we're all aware of. We have to continue to work together. This isn't about our political views or immigration or illegals. Our duty, the moment that we step into the school building, is to hold what is important to us, and that is the students. It's their education and their safety. So we have to put that all aside when we come here, and that is should be our priority. So I hope that we can continue implementing ways to help our students and support them, and the parents as well, because they're all entrusting their students with us. So I appreciate everybody's working together in the community.
Okay, anybody else? Any public participation that's here? Got anything to say? Okay. Okay, 1.4.2, recognition of students, staff, and community. We got Minnesota AAA award winners. Congratulations to Madison Sieve and Austin Kinzer, who were named this year's Worthington Academics, Arts, and Athletics AAA award senior winners. Thank you for your dedication to academic excellence, involvement in activities, and participation in our music ensembles, truly exemplifying what it means to be a Trojan. Next, we got Treats for Teens. Our Treats for Teens students once again demonstrated generosity and leadership during their annual holiday fundraising campaign. Through a week of special treats for purchase, students raised $6,207.60, with proceeds supporting school and community organizations that benefit our students. Thank you to everyone involved in this meaningful, teachable moment of giving back. Trojets Dance Team. Congratulations to the Trojets Dance Team on an outstanding showing at the Big South Dance Championships. JV Jazz placed second, Varsity Jazz second place, Varsity Kick third place. Okay, Trojan Gymnastics Team. Congratulations to the Trojan Gymnastics Team on an undefeated season and earning an invitation to the Minnesota Class A True Team Gymnastics Tournament. As one of the top 10 programs in the state, our Trojans continue to demonstrate exceptional skill, dedication, and teamwork. We wish them the best as they compete this weekend. Go Trojans. Snowcoming. Today officially kicked off Snowcoming Week. We are excited to celebrate with our students through a fun-filled week of dress-up days, activities, and events. Enjoy the week. WHS Art Department. Congratulations to 12 WHS students selected to participate in the Augustana High School Art Show at Augustana University in Sioux Falls. Their artwork will be displayed for public viewing and considered for awards. Keep up the great work and creativity. Okay, moving on, 2.0, approval of agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent and main agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Ann,
Second.
seconded by Lori. All those in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 3.0, approval of minutes, the December board meeting and the recent committee meeting minutes. Do I have approval of our minutes?
Move to approve.
Motion by Aaron, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, 4.0, consent agenda. If you looked over the consent agenda, I need a motion for the items under the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Lori, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann. All those in favor of the consent agenda items, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 5.0, main agenda, monthly financial overview. Carmen.
You guys have in front of you the revenue and expenditure guideline for the period ending December 31st of 2025. We are halfway through our budget year. If you look at our percentages, our total operating funds for revenue, very close to what it was last year. We're 43.85% of our budget compared to 43.01 last year. So we're right on track with our revenues. Expenditures are similar. We're 41.88% compared to 44.10%. So we're just running a little bit lower on expenditures, and some of that is just different times of the year when our expenditures are coming through. But both of them are on target compared to our budget, and we're still working on that budget revision, kind of finalizing some revenue numbers, and then still kind of waiting for those expenditures with salaries as we negotiate. So hopefully the next month or two we can have that presented for this current year and then start working on our next year budget.
Questions for Carmen? Done. Okay, 5.2, Special Education Programming Review by Carol Potter. Welcome, Carol.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my program, Special Education Program Review, with you. It's good to see so many familiar faces in the audience. And I did get a little feedback that I was supposed to keep it really short tonight, so I'm going to do my best. Okay, the program review. So the purpose, the board had asked Superintendent Heitkamp to, his first task was to complete a special education program review, and that entails all of these things that are listed on here. So when I went to do the program review, I asked for administrative feedback, special education teacher, related service provider feedback, special education leadership feedback. I dug into the MDE data to see what they'd say about Worthington. I connected with the finance director at the Southwest West Central Co-op, who manages most of the finances for special education. And then I had an opportunity to dig into the SPED Forms data, which is the platform in which all IEPs, evaluation reports, et cetera, are kept in. And so combining all of that information, I made a summary of all of those pieces to share with you tonight. I'm going to go over the highlights for you so I can be sure to keep it short as promised. Okay, on the special education side, so just a quick overview of what you have in Worthington. And so your child count, and I'm going to say a little bit over a year ago, on December 1st, 2024, was 637 students. And I'm going to move ahead because hot off the press today, the new child count numbers came out, and your new child count is actually 634 students. So you are very consistent. A little bit about your personnel within the district, and this is teachers and paraprofessionals. And I'll just call your attention over to, you can read all of it on your own. I'm not going to read all of those pieces, but over to the right-hand column where it says adult to student ratio. And you can see that through each of the schools, there's a very nice adult. So if you have one adult to 2.2 students, for example, at Prairie, the intermediate school is one adult to 4.6 students. And as you age up, that is very typical that that ratio gets higher because kids are building independence and they can do more things on their own. And so we don't have to have adult support for every part of their day. I did a comparison. A comparison district is the current district that I serve as the Director of Special Services for, and that's the Little Falls Schools, so north of St. Cloud. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like in another district of comparable size. And so our child count that just came out today is 633. So couldn't be a whole lot closer, right? And so in those ratios in the right-hand column, if you look at the second row, Lincoln, the K2 school, which would be the equivalent to Prairie, it's one adult to 2.7 is what we serve in Little Falls. So all of the numbers are very similar as you go down. And again, as you go down the right column, those percentages or those ratios should get bigger as kids are building their independence. Okay, related service providers, and these numbers will always look a little bit different depending on the role that the people serve across the district. And so this is Worthington's numbers, speech language pathologists, there's 5.75. If you look in the far right column, the total FTE. The middle two columns are what the district provides and then what the co-op provides. And again, total on the right. So school psychologists, total of 4.4. Academic evaluators, 2.5. Occupational therapists, 2.1. Deaf, hard of hearing, 1. And a half of a physical therapist. In comparison, just so you have something to look at with like number district, Speech language pathologists in Little Falls, we have 5, so very similar. School psychologists, we have 2 versus the 4.4 in Worthington. And then academic evaluators, we have 1, occupational therapist 1, deaf hard of hearing teacher 0.8, and then we have a 1.0 physical therapist. More related service providers, your DAPE teacher, and this is Worthington again, so DAPE teachers, you have 1, a BVI or orientation mobility specialist, you have 0.3. School social workers, you have 4, and the reason why that is asterisk in the right column is because they're, half of them are paid for with special education, and 2 of them are paid for in general education. And then there's 9 school counselors across the district, and then there's a half serving, 1 person, but she's serving half-time right now as a board-certified behavior analyst. In comparison to Little Falls, DAPE teacher, we have half a DAPE teacher. BVI teacher, we actually hire a consultant. We're not part of a co-op. And so we hire consultants, sometimes through other districts that are around us, sometimes through an agency. And so we just pay that person hourly for the service that they provide. School social workers, we have 6, again, asterisk, because they serve 50% general ed, 50% special ed. 2 school counselors. We don't have any board certified behavior analysts, but we do have 1 behavior interventionist at our middle school who is paid for out of our coordinated early intervention dollars, which is part of special education. And then when it comes to administrators, so in Worthington, obviously, you know, you have 1 director and 1 assistant director. Those folks are part of the co-op. There's 5 special education secretaries, there's 5 lead teachers, and 5 mentor teachers across the district. In comparison, again, Little Falls has 1 director, and because we're not part of a co-op, the district hires me. And we have 1.5 coordinators, which are the on-the-ground supervisors. They're administrative positions who are covering all of the pieces in the schools day to day. And then we also have 1 due process specialist. And I think I shared when I came to Little Falls last year, we were just a little bit messy in our due process. And so I brought this person on board from an agency to help us clean up the pieces where you need to clean up, so we were compliant. And then we don't have any sped secretaries in the schools at all. The case managers, they schedule all of their meetings and connect with parents directly. They complete all their due process to connect with families as well. We do have 5 lead teachers in the buildings for special education, and then we also have 5 mentor teachers, again, stipend pay, just like Worthington. And then I have 1.5 internal folks, and that 1.5, they do the transportation, the MARS, the MA billing, the CEDRA, that is completed by the co-op for Worthington. So it looks like this for Worthington, extra additional services that we have to have. Okay, your students in the district are served in multiple ways and not unfamiliar at all across the state. And so in your early childhood, there's a push-in to general education classes, there's pull-out to individual support or small group, in homes and daycare settings. And so you serve students across the community. And your teachers do a wonderful job. They're extremely dedicated. And in K2, same thing, push in and pull out. 3-5, you see the same thing, push in and pull out. And then starting in the middle school in 8th grade, they start a co-top model that they would love to go down into 7th and 6th grade as well. 9-12, again, same thing, pull out, push in, and several co-taught classes, and even in content classes at the high school. And then Learning Center, same, pull out, push in, and then Vibe Online is more of a one-to-one service when the kids come up. Okay, take just a little sip of water. And then get into this next section. And before I start this, what I want to say is that administrators, teachers, related service providers, we're all very honest in their feedback, very gracious in their feedback. And I will say that what they shared is very impactful to the services that will be provided. And I don't ever want anybody to think that, oh, it's a gotcha, because it's not a gotcha. It just is it's a real look at what's going on. And I will tell you, there are no significant red flags. There are no significant anything that's going poorly. And so I just wanted to be sure I said that before we get started, because the feedback is real feedback from people's perspectives. Okay. So building administrators, I spoke with every building administrator and collected feedback in 5 areas around program structure and delivery, staffing and personnel, student outcomes and progress monitoring, family and community engagement, and challenges and areas for improvement as well. And tonight I'm going to talk about overall strengths that the administrators shared, and then some key challenges as well. So overall strength. Strong parent engagement across the district. And then all the administrators felt like they have very effective collaborative structures. And what I mean by that is PLCs, building leadership teams, SPED representation on the building leadership teams, and then ongoing, some pretty consistent ongoing problem solving in between all of those pieces. And so what a great strength to have for communication. More strengths. I've mentioned this earlier, dedicated and compassionate staff. The administrators couldn't say enough good things about the staff that they have at their schools. They really feel very strongly in the positive work that they're doing. Inclusive and specialized practices. Feel like the teachers were very creative in carving out space for every student need. So looking at, we have students with really significant needs, and so how are students served in ways that get them to where we want them to be, which is graduation and life beyond. And then also the administrators gave some very positive feedback about strong paraprofessional teams in the buildings, and also the use of the SPED clerical staff. They felt like this was very efficient, so teachers could stay in instruction. And they just had very positive feedback about that additional support behind the teachers. Okay, some key challenges across, again, this is across the district, so in general from administrators, staffing instability, the loss of some veteran teachers, feeling like we might not have teachers in buildings, or we might not have enough paraprofessionals in buildings, and then maybe some coming and going at, maybe some challenging times during the school year unexpectedly. Paraprofessional management, this is typically a challenge area because they need training, right? We all need training. And so what are those systems for training? How do I train the teachers and train the paraprofessionals? And then also, how do teachers train paraprofessionals on specific kids? And so just really looking for a better way to maximize effectiveness around that. And then maybe they felt like there was some inconsistent inclusion and some least restrictive environment understanding, that all of our kids, not just belonging to special education, but all of our kids. So how do we do that better? How do we communicate better and make sure we're all serving our kids effectively? Additionally, this first one is I think this is everywhere, time and access constraints. How do we have enough time in the day to get everything done and also have really good conversations? I talked about that problem solving a little bit earlier and having that time in between the meetings to get things done. And so there doesn't always seem to be a lot of time to do that. Some buildings had more of that time than other buildings. And then some student engagement barriers, and so there's some attendance issues, where the kids are. We're trying to figure out how the kids attend every day. And also in the virtual setting as well, making sure that kids are online at the appropriate time when the teachers are available. And then space limitations. So the high school, Tony, I don't want to pick on you, but the high school felt like, we need a little bit more space. And then also in early childhood too, that they felt like they needed a little more space as well. Family engagement gaps, that the feeling was that parents were coming regularly to IEP meetings, but maybe not coming to parent-teacher conferences as much. Okay. That was all of the administrative feedback. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the special education teacher feedback. And again, I just want the caveat to say that it was open dialogue and it's perspective. This is just perspective taking. And we need perspective in order to grow and make changes. And so the feedback from teachers, we talked about programming, we talked about data collection, we talked about support from supervisors, support from building administrators, talked about scheduling, IEP meetings, staffing across. And then a little bit by building. So this is broken out by building because they each have some key strengths and they each have some key challenges as well. And so the early childhood team felt like they have a very strong teaching team. They have positive family partnerships, which is great because that's where it starts. It starts with our littles. And then they felt like very positive about their 2.5-year-old transition class. That is just a bump that will get them into the 3s. And then curriculum and assessment tools, the strong use of the STAR curriculum and teaching strategies gold, which is more of an assessment to determine where our kids are at, and that's widely used across the state as well. And then leadership support, so strong support from the early childhood coordinator, providing guidance to them as well, so they felt well supported in that. All right, challenges from early childhood. They felt like there was a lack of assessment infrastructure, meaning that they are completing their own assessments. And I mentioned this in one of our earlier meetings, that it's okay for early childhood to complete assessments. Those assessments are different than the Part B assessments or evaluations. And so it's okay that they complete their own assessments. They're seeing an increase in behavioral concerns and how to best support students in intervention. I mentioned space, that they were looking for a little bit more instructional space that maybe wasn't shared with other teachers. And then curriculum limitation, insufficient access to a comprehensive range of curriculum tools and resources, so maybe looking at some new curriculum. And program isolation, and again, I think our early childhood, they function a little bit differently than our other general education buildings. And so sometimes the feeling of being left out and maybe not connected to the general ed building in the same way. And then also the thought of perhaps looking developmentally at what our kids, how they're learning. Are they in more of a play-based situation? Or are they more sitting in a circle and looking at the whiteboard or smartboard? What does that look like? Okay. So Prairie now, and so key strengths of Prairie. They feel like they have a very strong evaluation process, clear and effective procedures, strong team collaboration. And I will just add that all of the teams were very strong, and all of the teams in collaboration, they seemed to all get along really well, which was fun for me to step into. And one of their key strengths is social emotional learning resources, so they want to keep that going. Instructional programs, good use of Sunday, and again, the STAR curriculum as well. And then they also feel that they have very dedicated and highly effective SPED clerical support, and don't ever want to lose that support. Okay. Some challenges for Prairie is, again, staffing. So ongoing shortages of licensed and non-licensed staff. There's some behavioral support gaps, looking at how do we support kids if someone is called to a classroom, what does that look like? Who goes to support the student? Service delivery barriers. It's difficult to schedule services outside of the general education classroom because of the scheduling. So they really wanted to look at how could that be done differently. And I think it's valid, something to look at. We look at scheduling every year in special education. And then administrative support, feeling like administrators are being stretched across a really big building and programs. This was one item that I alluded to a little bit earlier. So special education teachers are being tasked to go out of their instructional time to go and support kids in a general education setting for behavior. And so there's just some there's some gaps. So when a special education teacher leaves their classroom, obviously those kids are missing instruction, and now what happens next? And so some thoughts about that, gotta look at that. And then again, the schedule. The schedule often drives programming instead of the needs of the kids driving programming. The intermediate school, great strengths of the intermediate school, strong administrative leadership, responsive district support, so special education. Jill, they're happy that you are supporting them effectively. Instructional practices, effective implementation, the Sunday program again. So lots of positives about the Sunday program and Sunday curriculum. It's great. Staff stability, stable. They feel very comfortable where they are with their staffing right now, and that they just feel like they have a high level of support. And then again, operational excellence, the SPED clerical, that's a key strength for them as well. So some key challenges for the intermediate school, feeling like they have high caseloads, wanting to look at that and how do we figure that out? And again, that comes with staffing, curriculum gaps that maybe we're not meeting all of our students' need with the current curriculum. Limited teacher support structures, so how do we coach especially new teachers, and not only new teachers, but teachers that might be on an out-of-field placement license or a tier 1 teacher just coming into the field and maybe hasn't been in a classroom before. How do we support those folks effectively? Instructional disruptions, again, pulled from instruction to support students. And then how do we, observation and feedback gaps, limited special education focused classroom observations. So the teachers were really asking for more feedback. Come and visit my classroom, come and see what we're doing, and so I can do my job better. Middle school. So middle school key strengths. They have evidence-based interventions. It's a Read 180 and the Math 180. They're very excited about that and feel like they have good data to support that students are growing. They have a strong collaborative culture. District level support, again, is strong. And then specialized programming, strong supports and services in place for students in DCD programming. That teacher in particular said that things are going very well. It's challenging. Every day looks a little bit different, but felt highly supported. Okay, some key challenges then for the middle school. increase in behaviors. We're seeing kids that are looking to be more independent and looking to grow up quickly and may or may not be ready for that yet. And so seeing some behaviors across, they're practicing their independence, right? In middle school, they're practicing. And then staffing and coverage issues, paraprofessionals being pulled from student support roles to serve as classroom substitutes. We know that that happens in other schools as well. But it impacts service delivery, right? If someone's being pulled from what they're assigned to, things change. And then administrative consistency, so maybe feedback in terms of administrators possibly giving different feedback. One might say one thing, one might say the other. But the teachers recognize that this also might be a time constraint. That this might not be, we might not have the opportunity to talk to both. So we talked to one and then we saw one later and we talked to that other person. And so just consistency around communication. And then maybe some limited inclusion models. The middle school, again, would really like to move from the 8th grade co-teaching model down to 7th grade and down to 6th grade as well, so that kids can be with their peers in general education classes. Okay, high school, so key strengths. Inclusive instructional models, strong implementation of co-teaching. I mentioned that earlier as well. So they co-teach not only in reading with language and math, but also in some content areas to support kids as well. Career and transition programming, effective use of the PACE Lab. And so PACE Lab, for those of you that don't know, that stands for Practical Assessment Exploration System. And so it is a really nice lab in which kids can practice skills in 5 different career areas. And they start at ground zero. And I'll give a good example. So if you want to be an electrician, they start with, are you able to put wires, two wires together with a cap? And then the next skill that they would master maybe is hooking those wires then to a small light bulb. Can I get that light bulb to hook up? And then the skills just keep getting more difficult and more difficult. And when a student finishes those 5 skills, for example, then they go on to another set of skills. It's a very nice way for kids who have no idea what they want to do to just try a whole bunch of different things. And all of a sudden they land on something and say, hey, I'm really good at these puzzles. I never knew I was good at these puzzles, but it's something that I'm interested in. So that's a wonderful opportunity. And then again, academic interventions, the consistent use of the Math 180 and the Read 180. Instructional leadership. The team is very happy that the building principal has a special education background and can understand those instructional pieces as well. Okay, some key challenges for the high school. Again, staffing constraints. What does that look like? Are we fully staffed? And the high school probably has the lowest number of teachers across, but they may have the highest number of students that they serve. So you have to be really creative in figuring that out. And then the caseloads become high. So I'm spending more time as a teacher completing to process paperwork than maybe what I would like to be spending in instruction and problem solving with kids. Program capacity, co-taught classes, they're really high. There's high numbers of special education students in those classes. You know, I think best practice is about 1/3 of special education students in a co-taught class. You might want to look at that. Service delivery reductions. They feel strongly about their work-based learning opportunities, and they don't want to see that go away. They want to keep those work-based learning opportunities going. And then because the staffing is lower, then when staffing is lower, then we have to adjust, right? So then we have other people doing maybe some assignments that they hadn't done before. And when that happens, then our procedures change as well. And so as long as those procedures are all communicated And we're working to do things in a common way. It all works out well, but again, that communication ranks right up there. And in particular, the high school teachers wanted to talk about, or did talk about, the formal process for waiving evaluations. When do we make that choice that we waive an evaluation for a student? And there were some scheduling and compensation issues, summer scheduling, when teachers are scheduling the master schedule. We'd like to have that finished in the spring, and then it continues to get worked on over the summer, and then in the fall, in August, those final schedules need to go out. And so there's a lot of time, because special education schedules, when you go on classes in the middle school and the high school, you can schedule those to make sure kids are in the appropriate classes where they can get the appropriate support. Okay, the Learning Center. The Learning Center key strengths: small class sizes, flexible scheduling, strong administrative support, which goes hand in hand if you have small classes, right? You get the opportunity to be in support of teachers more. Work-based learning growth. They want to increase their work-based learning as well and feel they have strong opportunities to do so. Positive student outcomes. The student success rates are going up. Excuse me 1 minute. They would, on the same breath, they would like to see more kids in attendance with that, but the kids that are in attendance are doing very well. Another key strength for the Learning Center is high mental health support, strong collaboration with the social worker and Greater Minnesota Mental Health, enhances student well-being, and then adaptive instructional staff. So again, that flexibility, and I saw this across all buildings, that the teachers said, yes, we're here for the students, and so we want to be as flexible as we can, but we want to understand the role that we're being asked to do in addition to our typical role. We just want to make sure that we're catching it because we want to support students effectively. Some key challenges then for the Learning Center: high caseload there. It's just one special education teacher, so it's a little bit higher caseload. It's a little bit different though, because students are coming in moving, so that caseload just fluctuates consistently. Limited paraprofessional support at the Learning Center, maybe some late identification of students that are at risk, that looking at the potential of, can we identify kids who are credit deficient a little earlier, and then again, the attendance concerns. Okay, moving on to the Special Education Evaluation Team, the SEAT team. So feedback was provided in the following 4 areas: program structure and delivery, staffing and personnel, student outcomes and progress monitoring, and family and community engagement. Okay. So on the SEAT team, you have school psychologists, you have your academic evaluators, and then there's one speech language pathologist who also does only evaluation for the district. And so your school psychologists complete the cognitive or intellectual assessments for kids, social emotional rating scales, adaptive rating scales, autism rating scales, and then they also are completing FBAs this school year. Again, a little bit of a role shift, because there was the behavior analyst had to shift into more of a case management role, and then so it shifted the FBAs again, and that's what we do in special education. Okay, then the academic specialist then does all of the academics assessments for reading, math, and written language. Transition provides the medical updates, and then the background information is part of the evaluation. Very collaborative team. So just a little bit of summary over our data summary over 5 years. And I'm not going to read all of this to you, but as the years get higher, we're completing more evaluation, and that's consistent across the state. And so if you look in the very right column, this past school year, the number of initial assessments, the number of re-evals, those are the evaluations that are being completed. And the waived evaluations are the ones where parents make the decision that at this time, that it is not, we don't need to have a new evaluation to determine if the student continues to qualify for special education. So adding all those three things together, you get 380. And then, so they shared that their key strengths are, they feel like they have a very efficient referral process. And I think that they do, they shared the process, and so I think that they do have a very strong, efficient process. And then they also feel like they are very highly skilled staff. They know their role, they demonstrate expertise, and lots of professionalism with that. Some challenges with the special education assessment team. Limited problem-solving structures, absence of a formal problem-solving team at the high school perhaps to talk about early intervention. There's some intervention gaps that they would like to see filled, and these folks will be the ones who can spot those gaps because they are in all schools and looking at evaluating all students that come forward, and so they would be able to help identify the gaps that exist. And then the feeling of they feel challenged by the reduced clerical support that they have had this last year, and they would like some process clarity. Again, school psychologists, those are the folks that, they're into the details, and so very much they want the process and the procedures in place and making sure everybody knows what that is. And then high volumes of referrals, feeling like that number is, that 380 is high, but remember again, there was a good portion in there that was waived. And then maybe there's some over-identification too, feeling like we have kids in the early grades that maybe are being identified for special education, and we should possibly be looking to see if it's a language issue first. Okay, the other related service provider team that I talked with is a speech-language pathologist. And again, I won't read these 7 areas, but you can look how they provided feedback to me. Okay, key strengths for the speech-language pathologist team. And so they too feel like they have very consistent evaluation practices. Again, they have one SLP who does all of the initial evaluations for these folks. And then they also feel like their service delivery model is very effective. They have data that indicates that the students are growing in their language skills. They feel that the paraprofessionals that support, so this is the virtual piece now, that there's a paraprofessional in the building when they're serving kids, and that paraprofessional may go get that student, bring them to the room that they are being served in, and waiting for the SLP to come online. They feel like those folks are very good at what they do. And then they use the 3-1 service model, which means they have 3 weeks of direct service to kids, and then 1 week of indirect service, which could be evaluations. It could be talking with classroom teachers. It could be talking with special education teachers. Professional learning. They have, they're very excited about the ongoing professional development with a website, speechpathology.com, and that is a highly recommended area or website for learning for speech pathologists. And then they also feel like there's very strong clerical support at the school that has come across in every building, that support is very highly appreciated. Okay, some key challenges with the speech language. So feeling that they could use some role clarity well, and perhaps they would like to share what their role is with administrators so it's very clear. what they do and how they serve kids. They have some concerns about partnership. They feel that maybe they are micromanaged a little bit and not given some professional autonomy. They also, they talked about evaluation coordination and how they want to make sure that that SLP that serves on the C team, the evaluation team, is there consistently. And so that they are part of those conversations that go on for initial evaluations. And then they also feel that there is some scheduling constraints because when they don't want to take kids out of content core instruction. And so it's always a big matrix when you can, figure out the schedule and when you can serve particular kids. And maybe I can get someone in 4th grade, but I can't get them in 3rd grade because they have math going on. So it's always this balance of figuring out the schedule. And they said one of their challenges is, especially for those that serve in a virtual format on this team, that they said that they have fewer opportunities to build the partnerships and the relationships with school staff. And the last one, high caseloads. They felt like the SLP caseloads were high. Okay, this is just a guide that I created to compare the best fit model is what I call it. And so looking at what is the question was being asked, is the 3-1 model the best model for the SLPs? Is the 4-1 weekly model, which is 4 days direct, 1 day of that indirect service, or is it 5 days direct? What is the best? And I think it really depends on the kids that you serve. And so the 3-1 model, it is a more of an inexpensive model because for a whole week, we're not serving kids directly, so it's a more expensive model. But I think that SLPs feel like they can get all of the additional pieces done. They can get their MA billing completed, they can get any reevaluations completed and see kids. And so it's something that I know that a team of you will look at to make sure that there is a best fit. Okay, due process review. This was really fun. I had access to the Worthington SPED form system, like I mentioned earlier, and I went in and I reviewed 20 student cases from across all of the age levels. And as I said earlier, there are no huge red flags. The teachers are doing some really beautiful due process. And it's so nice, they tell very cleanly the stories about students in their present levels, and they are able to articulate what exactly is going on with the students and their needs. And so they have consistency in meeting deadlines. There were maybe just a couple, that hadn't met the deadline, and that happened mainly in the younger grades because sometimes it's more challenging to get those evaluations, especially in early childhood, completed on time. And so there were consistent teams present for IEP meetings on the notice of a team meeting, and there was collaborative input from all the stakeholders on the team. The families seemed to be really engaged. And I would say that the evaluations were quite strong. Okay. Some challenges now in due process, and again, this is not out of the realm of anything that I haven't seen before. And so there's a significant amount of paraprofessional supports without goals to build independence. So I always like to have, when I'm having a student with one-to-one support, for example, those adults that we looked at in one of the early slides, that I make sure that we're building goals. So what does that look like then to build independence? And we know exactly in a student's day, maybe we're using a paraprofessional matrix to determine exactly when they need support. And so we don't want to assume that a student can't walk from their classroom to the cafeteria let's try it. Let's see if they can do it. And then we may not have to have that adult right by them, or maybe it's just in, minimal assist in eye shot range. And so that was one thing that I noted. And then goals don't always have a baseline, so the student is going from this, they're able to do this right now, to we want to get them here. And that is a best practice, but I will say that every district trains around that just a little bit differently. But if you were to ask MDE, they would probably say, oh yeah, we should probably know where they're coming from. We got to have that baseline and where we want them to go. Objectives. So objectives were often stacked without end dates, and I'll tell you what I mean by stacked. And so if we are looking to have a student complete a task, it would say by, and we'll start in September. So this IEP is going to start in September. So by November, we want student to be able to do this task with 80% accuracy. And then the next one would say, well, then by February, we want this student to be able to complete this task with 85%. What was happening is that there weren't always end dates. There weren't, not by November, not by February, and there weren't always the percentage in order to complete them. So something to look at. Meetings don't always include an EL teacher, even when the student has been identified as dual identified, an English learner and a special education student. So we want to make sure that that EL teacher is invited. And then the related services teams, they could just benefit from developing common service methods. And so it was some different kinds of minutes. Some put them as a week, some put them in a month, some put them in a year. And so what does that look like for consistency across the district? But overall, again, I'll say it again, due process really looks good. Okay, so some recommendations then for next steps. So the first one, it would be nice if the district could develop a decision-making model for the district, not just for special education, but for the district that could be used in special education. And so teams would know who the stakeholders are for any particular meeting or any particular when you're gathering feedback. So whenever people are together, how are we going to make the decision about what we're doing, who gets to make the decision, and what is the input level? So if I go to a meeting, I want to know, am I just providing feedback? Am I just a listener in this meeting? Do I get to make the decision about what we do next? So it's just nice to have a decision-making model so everybody is on the same page and delivering. Everybody has a common understanding of what's going to happen at the meeting. And then develop that SPED administrative team. So what does that look like? Is it a director and an assistant director? Is that a director and coordinators? What are the needs? And so I would just say, you just need to look at what responsibilities do you want those folks to do? So if you want them to be superintendent of Heitkamp, do you want them to be on your cabinet giving feedback from a special education lens? Do you want them to be completing evaluations for teachers that they are overseeing and providing some supervision to? Just determine what are those roles, and then who are they going to report to? That'll be key, because they'll need to know what information to provide to the cabinet, for example. And then developing those communication avenues with all teams. And so how often do I meet with the related services team? If I'm the director, do I meet monthly with them? Do I meet weekly with them? What is that, quarterly? Just so everybody is consistent on that meeting, and that we all can make the commitment to be there to move the work forward. It's really important. And that it really does wonders for communication and building team. And then continue partnership with building administration, so that sometimes what happens, and I know this happens in Little Falls, that I may give one direction to a special education teacher from a special education lens, but the principal might give another direction from their building lens. And so it just takes a lot of collaboration, and maybe information can be shared around procedures at administrative meetings that you are on the same page. And what I do is I often provide, I just did one last week, for example, on administrative designees. So we have some new deans and a couple of new principals. And so what does that look like for them in the district, and how, so everybody knows what is that role, what do I do when I'm in that meeting. And so it's a really nice opportunity just to make sure that we're all clear. Okay, another recommendation for next step, and we talked about this often, so I'm not going to put a lot of time into this one, is to increase communication with those related services teams. Sometimes, you know, they are amazing professionals and they want that autonomy to make decisions professionally, but they also want that overall supervision to give guidance for the system. And so again, I think just developing a schedule, developing a tool for feedback, and then increasing communication. We're all on the same team. We all want what's best for kids. The next one is developing clear job descriptions. I talked a little bit about this earlier, that when a job description changes, so if I am a teacher, but then I am called into this other role, what does that mean for me when I'm doing that other role? And what is my flexibility? What are my boundaries for completing that other role? It just needs to be very clear, and again, falls under that communication piece. And I would recommend too, holding at least annual feedback sessions. It was such a great opportunity to meet with your teachers, and they're very smart and they have really good feedback. And so I recommend doing it annually to just, hey, what are we thinking about? What are our goals for this year? What do we all want to do that's in common? And how are we connected to our strategic vision? What's our role in special education connected to a strategic plan? And then evaluate staff growth in a meaningful way. So, and what I mean by that is just simply do it regularly and provide impactful feedback for them that is more than just, you're really good at your job. But why am I really good at my job? What do I do that impacts student growth? And so tell me about that, because I want to know. I want to know what I'm doing well for the system. Continue to grow your own. You have a really good process in place right now. This year, I feel like it was an anomaly for Worthington, being short-staffed, and it sounds like there's some teachers in the pipeline coming forward. You just hired one this week, it sounds like. And so continue to be mindful of that, and maybe develop some kind of a workload so that we know how many teachers are going to be in the building and what is that fair number to have in a building to serve kids as well. Continue to train staff in best practices. You do all this. Continue to train staff in due process procedures, maybe some of the things we talked about, and then create those staff connections. When we're connected to each other and we have a high sense of belonging, we all do better when we all do better. And then the last one is really I told the board this earlier, it's just really my favorite, about appreciating the highlights. And when something is going well, that we say it out loud. We celebrate the victories. We celebrate when kids do something for the first time, because that's a big deal. We may have worked a half a year to have the student walk from their classroom to the cafeteria, and wow, they did it by themselves. So just be mindful to celebrate all those pieces along the way. Okay, just a little bit on the organizational finances. And finances, again, for Worthington in the special education realm, they're managed mostly by the co-op. But they look very good. They're very good. There aren't any significant red flags in there. I would just recommend just knowing who the co-op is funding and who the district is funding, so we can make good decisions about the money that's being spent. And then, again, along with that, just knowing where they're coded, planning possibly for early intervention, VPK, which is voluntary pre-K, coordinated early intervention, and then ADCESS, alternative delivery. You know, those are some things that you could look in for early intervention as well. Determine the SPED administrative positions needed based on what the staff needs and what the district needs for feedback. And then just I just want you to be aware that positions such as nursing, social work, behavior intervention, instructional behavior specialists, those folks can also be paid for out of special education. And then lastly is just encouraging a mindset we all share in the growth of every student. We all, whether we're in special education or we're in general education, we all share in that. And the reason why I put this in the finance section is because oftentimes in special education, we have a tendency to say, oh, special education paid for that. You might not be able to use that. So we have to think about and be careful with our messaging, because it really does create silos in classrooms. It creates silos for teachers. And so just being mindful of that. That's it. How did I do, Tony? On time? Okay. Great. Any questions that you might have?
Guys have anything for Carol?
I have one question. You mentioned that staffing instability is one of our challenges. And I'm wondering if you, from your perspective, if you have any specific recommendations to try and improve staffing stability, or at least keep the wonderful staff that we have. What recommendations that you mentioned do you think particularly hit home that point?
Yes, thank you. Good question. So one of my strongest beliefs is that staff want to work in a place where they feel like they belong, and they're connected not only to the work, but they're connected to the people that they work with. And so if we can create that as a district, create that sense of belonging, it's really important for staff. I think the other piece is high communication too, and to create that, they go together. And so to create that sense of belonging, I have to be in high communication all the time. And I have to be letting people know what they do really well. And I would say giving the professionals the autonomy to make decisions, but letting them know where that decision level is. Yep, I'll let you decide if that student qualifies for special education. Yeah, you're the professional. You go ahead and make that decision. And so when people have that sense that they're making a difference and they're connected, that's my best advice on that one, for sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Okay.
You spoke a lot about, in your feedback gathering, about people wanting more clarity and a more systematic approaches and things. What is the best practice or your opinion of where that needs to be implemented, at what level and by whom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ooh, that's a really good question too. Thank you. So I do believe that it starts with the superintendent, right? The superintendent sets the tone for how we communicate and how we make decisions, and then that just trickles down through the system. So then we go to our administrators. How do our administrators learn to make decisions, and where is their feedback for teachers as well? So I think it is just, it's key that starts at the very beginning, and you have a wonderful superintendent to start that process.
Councilman Mann.
Mr. Chairman, a question. As you evaluate our engagement with the co-op, did you find that there were services we should be utilizing that were not, or there are things that we should take in-house and do efficiently better than co-op involvement?
Mm-hmm. Another great question. And so, to be honest, I didn't dive really deep into all of the services that they provide because they are a very large co-op and they do a lot of great things. And so, but the services that I did look at, some of them, what happens is that those folks that they provide, like low incidence disability areas, for example, blind, visually impaired, we don't have many students that are in the district like that. And so to hire your own would be difficult, and they're hard to find. They're really hard to find. So for the co-op to be providing those pieces, I think is necessary for you.
What about the leadership structure of the director? Is there advantages or disadvantages of having that position in-house or through the co-op?
So this is what I think about that. Having a director in-house provides a different level of support in terms of, again, if Superintendent Heitkamp would like that person to be on their cabinet, and maybe they have a district-wide role through the system. So maybe that's partnering with administrators on certain things. And so that is the benefit of having someone in-house, because there's great ownership having someone in-house, and you know, the district, you belong to the district, right? I'm not coming and going, you belong. That doesn't mean to say that you couldn't have a director from the co-op who is with you full-time, but you may just want to look at those job descriptions, and you may have flexibility in determining, you know, if they want to be a good partner with you, you could possibly look at those job descriptions and accomplish that same piece.
Joel, do you have?
Yeah, if I could just say thank you to Carol for the work that you've done over the course of the last, it's been almost 6 months. If I remember, I was sitting in that corner on a June evening when the board made the decision to do it, and I was sitting on my porch on a Sunday morning and texted Carol and said, who might you know that would be able to do this work for us? And so I appreciate you stepping up and being a part of it. And, you know, I also wanted to just give a shout out to our whole special ed team for their engagement through the process. Carol said over and over again how much she enjoyed our time here. And then just also want to acknowledge our special ed team as well, knowing that it's been a challenging year with a interim director who isn't here all the time, and Jill's been running all over, stretched really thin, so I appreciate her work as well. And so just wanted the opportunity to call that out here this evening. So thank you again. And just for clarity, the full presentation I think was close to 80 slides. And so it's got more information that wasn't shared, but will be really, really valuable as we move into a new director and continue to build strong programs for kids. Thank you.
One last, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Question. What about the, maybe you didn't dive into this, but questions to our parents and the families and their feeling about programming, and is there value in doing surveys to gauge how they consider we're doing?
I did not survey families about how they feel services are going. However, there was strong feedback around parent engagement and parents showing up at school for conferences and for IEP meetings. The older that the student became, the less engaged that they were maybe for parent-teacher conferences, but they were still showing up for IEP meetings, which is fantastic. And that's not always an easy task for parents to come into a situation in which they may not speak English or have limited English, and then the use of an interpreter as well. And so I applaud the number of families that you have engaged in the process. It's wonderful. Mm-hmm.
More? Darla, Ann, Lori?
It will be uploaded to the district website at some point, the presentation.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Eric, Aaron? Good. Okay, thanks, Carol.
Thanks again, Carol.
Okay, moving on. 5.3, approve the second and the final reading of policy 606, textbooks and instructional materials, 306, Administrator Code of Ethics, 417, chemical use and abuse, and 712, video recording other than on buses. Joel?
Yeah, so 4 policies coming back for a second and final read. These all went through committee 2 times as well. 606, 306, and 712 are all legislative or minor updates through MSBA. Just did want to call out with a little bit more depth that 417, again, just as a reminder, is a full adoption of the current MSBA policy. In reviewing our current policy with the recommendations that MSBA had sent, there were such great differences, and it looked like there had been a little bit of a gap in updating that it would be our recommendation as an administrative team that we just adopt the full 417 draft from MSBA and get back on track with that. So both went through committee without any recommendations further and other than approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the 4 policies listed?
So moved.
Motion by Ann, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lori. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, 5.4, approve a memorandum of understanding with Education Minnesota Worthington for the 2026-27 school year. Joel?
Yeah, so just calling out quickly to board members that there was a slight typo on the agenda, so it is for next year. It should say 2026, 2027 on the year. Again, this MOU went through both committee. Through our negotiation process with EMW, one of the pieces that we had talked about was the opportunity of a calendar flex day, allowing teaching staff to have one day throughout the school calendar year that they could place really anywhere that they would desire to do the work that they need to do at a given time. And so, for example, that day could come on June 2nd, for example, for this year, if we had it in place, because they needed an extra day to wrap up the year. Or it could be the Saturday before workshop week if they needed an extra day to feel ready to come back and do some of that learning. Or it could truly be on a Saturday in the middle of the year, or we've even talked about chunking it up into pieces, knowing that a given day is about 8 hours. And so we're looking for final board approval to move that into language that we can use and put into place into the calendar that I will present next. And we did talk at both committees, again, just as a reminder, that our building administrators would have some oversight of this. We've been talking with EMW leadership about what that could look like, but truly just staff submitting some sort of Google form stating what day they used it or what days they used it, and checking that off that day is one of their 186 contracted days.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the memorandum?
So moved.
Motion by Ann, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, 5.5, approve the 26-27 school calendar. Joel?
All right, thank you. I had 2 drafts, so we'll go through the draft with the calendar flex day. This again was gone through at both committee. You should have seen a copy of it there, so I'll just briefly go through it again for review. But the calendar that is being proposed, just want to call it out, was a collaborative effort amongst a large group, involved representation from teachers, building administrators, district administrators from all levels. And so was really proud of the process. We did it over 3 different meetings, gathering feedback, and then bringing back recommendations at each one. And so the calendar that we're presenting this evening is truly, it's not my idea, it's not any one person's idea, but really a collective effort of a large group. And so It has us coming back full as a full team on August 24th for our teacher workshop, starting school on the 31st, having that long weekend again around Labor Day. It has the 2 days of MEA as give back time for conferences for our staff. I'll just hit some of the breaks and then go back to some more of the highlights. It has our 2-day Thanksgiving break. It has a winter break starting on the 24th of December, going for half of that week and having the other week, half of that week off. Coming back to school from winter break on January 4th. We have 2 long weekends built in, one in February, one in March. That was a discussion and shared belief through that collaborative process that two longer weekends versus one much longer break really met staff's needs, allowed for multiple opportunities for staff to possibly get away if they needed to. And then scattered throughout the calendar are a number of early outs. 3 of them give back time for teachers setting their personal goals, 3 of them as professional development. The 2 items that I'd like to call out specifically, February 9th and 10th are scheduled learn from home days for our high school only. On those 2 days, we will tackle EL access testing, truly trying to support those students. The amount of pull-out time that was happening for them to complete that assessment was really disruptive to their learning. It took a long time at the high school. This is a practice that's happening in other districts throughout the state, and so the EL team, the high school team, truly felt like this would be a benefit for kids to have them come in the building, really focus on that assessment, get it done for most of them in 2 days. Students that are not access testing will be home doing learning extension activities while staff is, again, focused on providing that assessment. The other day that is different is April 23rd. That is a learn from home day for everyone, again, for professional development. And so on that day, we will have a very detailed schedule of what that looks like for staff. Staff will not have to do 2 activities at the same time. That's one of the stipulations through the Department of Ed if you do anything like this. And so, for example, the day could look like from 8 to 9 in the morning, staff are truly just getting students started on their day, making sure items are uploaded and ready to go. From 10 to 12:30, they're doing professional development with a lunch break, a half-hour check-in in the afternoon with more professional development dedicated for staff in the afternoon and a half-hour wrap-up. And students will know certain times of when teachers would be available. But again, never asking staff to do 2 or both of those tasks at the same time. We have a ending date of the school year of May 28th with graduation happening on that day and a final teacher day to wrap up on June 1st. So calendar includes 167 instructional days, the 185 required teacher days, and again, one of those days is added on there is a teacher flex day that you had just approved through that MOU. So looking for approval of the calendar for the 26-27 school year.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the 26-27 calendar?
So moved.
Motion by Eric, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Matt, is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, 5.6, approve student teaching agreement with Southwest Minnesota State University. Carmen?
This is a student teaching agreement with Southwest Minnesota State University. It's a 5-year agreement. It will start July of 26 and go through June 30th of 2031. This allows them to place student teachers in our district, which is also, it's a great experience for those student teachers. And it also provides us an opportunity for recruitment as well. So we have this with some other colleges as well. This is definitely one of the points as I'm out at career fairs that we really are trying to connect with some of those other colleges to set up student teaching because it gives us a lot of opportunity.
Okay.
So we're looking for approval for a 5-year agreement with them.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agreement with SMSU?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Eric, seconded by Lori. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, 5.7, approve the tax abatement request that we had heard earlier.
Yep, so coming forth again for approval, just a quick summary again. Marco Ramos is, I believe, the builder and did the application for the homeowner. Single-family home in Worthington. Again, all paperwork is in place for this, and this is a gentleman that has done many of these in the recent past. So there was no discussion at the hearing, and so looking for approval for the tax abatement.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the tax abatement?
So moved.
Motion by Eric,
Second.
seconded by Darla? Or Ann?
Ann.
Ann, sorry. Is there any further discussion? Okay, it's a roll call vote. Lisa?
Miss Dudley.
Aye.
Miss Agard.
Aye.
Miss Shute.
Aye.
Miss Mills.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Parrish.
Aye.
Mr. Woodboom.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. 5.8, approve Minnesota paid leave administrative procedures. Joel and Carmen.
Yeah, I'll kick us off as Carmen's getting loaded up there and just put a little background here. As many of you know, Minnesota paid leave has gone into effect now as of January 1st. We are just a little bit behind, although we haven't had we've had folks that have applied for this but haven't had to process much of the leave quite yet. But one piece that we do need to have taken care of is a procedure in regard to how we're going to handle the different aspects of the statute. And so, although we have had multiple conversations with EMW through negotiations, at this time we're deciding that it's not going to be something that's negotiated. It is a administrative procedure, and so we have language from MSBA. They have a model administrative procedure that Carmen's going to share. She may have to just give us the highlights, it looks like. That's okay. But the one thing we need to decide as a collective group tonight is how we're handling the piece of topping off. And so that has been a fairly large conversation throughout the state. Districts throughout the state are choosing to do it multiple ways. Our recommendation right now, oh, there she goes. So I'll let Carmen give our recommendations, and then we can have further discussion. There we go.
So this is just to explain how ISD 518 will implement the Minnesota paid leave that started January 1st of 2026. The overview of the Minnesota paid leave, to clarify the statutory requirements versus employer discretion, ISD 518 implementation and review of the plan. Effective January 1st, 2026, it provides, Minnesota leave provides partial wage replacement. It does not require the employer to have a wage contribution, and that is in the statute. ISD 518 will provide paid leave through its approved equivalent plan administered by Madison National Life Insurance. Employees apply through that carrier. The district will work and coordinate the absences as they apply to that in the application process. Local staffing reality, and this is kind of where we get into the conversation of why right now we're not recommending that we would top off Minnesota paid leave. There's an ongoing substitute shortage in our district, increased absences strain operations, and it has a direct impact on the instructional continuity for our students. State law does not require top-off wage. Any decision to supplement wages is a discretionary employer choice made by the school board. The board has the authority to determine whether wage supplementation is offered. A conservative approach reduces compliance and fiscal financial risk. For 2026, administration is recommending no district paid top-off. Employees will still receive paid leave benefits through the equivalent plan. So they can apply, so they actually have choices. They can apply for the Minnesota paid leave. They can just choose not to do that and just use their sick leave balances that they have for the leave, and then get full pay because they'll get their full percentage of sick leave. Part of this is, it depends, and we actually I think we already have maybe 8 or 9 that have applied to the system. Some of them have conversations. There's pros and cons, right? There's some effects on their TRA if they take the paid leave. So as we sit down and explain that to them, some of them are just choosing to just use their leave for the time frame of their medical, if it's maternity or if it's just a medical situation. It's a choice that they get to make. This is temporary data-driven approach. What we would like to recommend is for 2026, we implement with no top-off during the 2026 calendar year. We'll monitor absences, the cost and compliance, and then for 2027, we would bring back a formal review to the board with some more data. Part of this, as this law is just coming into place, as we had saw also with the Earn Safe and Sick, there's a lot of changes that happen in that first year, and even legislatively, they might make some changes and recommendations. DEED is the one that is monitoring this and coming down, trying to basically have the legal opinion of what that statute means. And as we saw with Earn Safe and Sick, there were changes based on, as cases came forward, what some of that changed. So things that we would analyze in the review would be the leave usage and absence cost. We would review Minnesota DEED guidance and carrier updates, assess workforce and operational impacts, and return to the board for recommendations. So what we're asking the board to do is approve the Minnesota paid leave implementation for calendar year 2026 with no district top-off, and direct administration to return in 2027 for review.
Okay, questions for Carmen? Okay. We need a motion then to approve administrative procedures without the top off, correct? Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Matt, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lori. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, 5.9, approve to declare surplus property.
We've got 3 different sets of items here to put on surplus here. We've got some teach textbooks that are out of date. We've got some old robotics kits that have been replaced, and then we've got a significantly old CNC router that no longer works and they no longer make parts for. So I believe it's 18 years old, and so if anybody's got parts laying around, it might be something good for you. But at this time, we're looking to declare those items as surplus. And I did share, I believe, at one of the committees that Josh and I are working to determine how we can offload some of these surplus items. Right now, they're currently being stored in a shed over by the middle school that is quite full. And so we're looking at options of how we can, offer those up to the community, get some money back for the district, and then anything that doesn't sell can be discarded.
You don't agree with the bonfire on Friday?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, do we need a motion to approve surplus property?
So moved.
Motion by Ann, do I have a
Second.
second? Darla? Seconded by Darla. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, 5.10, staffing process information. Carmen.
Cut me off, girl. So last month, we had approved that resolution, and I know there were some questions on that, so we just wanted to come back and maybe explain the staffing process for the district, and some of this is new for ISD 518. We've had different processes on staffing and kind of how we're going to approach it going forward. So why is staffing matters to the board? It's one of our largest investments in the general fund. Our salaries are a big part of our general fund spending. It has a direct impact on our student learning, and it's also governed by a Minnesota statute. Guiding principles, so student-centered, we align it with budget, statute and contract compliance, and we want to be transparent as we go through our budgeting process, or our staffing process. Minnesota statutes, there's a statute that's board authority for our staffing. There's a teacher employment one, a collective bargaining, and then budget authority, which you guys, is what you guys approved last month. What drives staffing? Enrollment and projections. And as we're looking at enrollment, and that's actually something that Ryan's working on now when we're talking about budgeting, what those enrollment numbers look like and what the projections look like. So, you know, we always have our history, our data, history of enrollment, and then we have to project going forward. And we do those projections for you guys and present those to you throughout the year. And some of this is based on just past history, our student enrollment, and what that looks like. Educational programming, that is more so probably at the upper grade levels, but as we look at different classes we're going to offer and what that looks like. So in high school, how many, as they start their enrollment for next year, what kind of programs they're going to offer and what staff is needed for those. Legal mandates, there are different programs that legally we have to offer, and then also what kind of financial resources do we have in staffing. And some of that, which Carol had mentioned, some staffing is special ed, some of it is compensatory dollars, there's title funding, so there's different funding sources that we use in our staffing. And that also drives what staffing we can do. If there's cuts in some of those programs, then we have to relook at some of the staffing in those. So kind of our annual staffing timeline that we're going to try to adhere to. In the winter, projections and budgets, which we're currently working on right now. Spring, we're going to be looking at staffing models. As we go through the process with they're doing registrations for next year. We're looking at what kind of staffing those needs are, what our student enrollment is going to be. We'll kind of go through each building, break it down, and then see what our staffing numbers are. And this is staffing, all staffing, right? It's not just teachers, it's teachers, paras, you know, clerical, all aspects of our district and what staffing needs are out there. And then May would be when our contracts are issued. So returning teachers, we issue contracts then. In openings, we would post our openings in the spring, early spring. As we know, teachers are leaving or retiring. We get those posted, and then over the summer is kind of when we kind of get some more clarity in our numbers and we do some adjustments. The roles and responsibility, the board is the governance and approval for staffing. Administrators, we provide the recommendations. HR is for compliance and hiring of staff. Adjustments and reductions. Enrollment are budget driven. So if our enrollment drops or our funding doesn't come through as we expected, that can affect staffing. Statute and contracts govern, and then board awareness is required in all of these. So some key takeaways, staffing is data-driven, so there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just some random staffing decisions. We're going to take a lot of data from different staffing models. You know, some of it, even like Carol's review, there's a lot that's going to go into our staffing, and then the board provides us oversight, and then compliance is critical to make sure that we're compliant. And some of those compliances are in our federal funding. We've got to make sure that we're compliant with those requirements. Any questions? And there's no action. This was just kind of information for you guys.
I have a question. So I love data as much as anybody in this room. But when it comes to making specific decisions about staff, it can't be entirely about data, right? And so what feedback are you receiving from other stakeholders about, that might turn into data points, right? When it comes to making decisions about contracts?
So one of the things that we're going to do this year, it's new. Actually, Mr. Heitkamp had shared this with us. We will be sending out a survey to staff, and it would be a questionnaire for them. So asking them things that they like about their current position. We do have teachers that maybe are teaching out of licensure, so we're offering that opportunity for them if they want to switch buildings. Just a lot of questions, but also we want to also take into account what they're feeling and what their needs are. So we're looking at that as well, which we have not done that before. I mean, on a personal level, they have, like the building administrators have had those conversations, but not so much at this higher admin level.
The other two pieces that are also new is that I've started having conversations with building administrators. We're going to go back for early spring listening sessions with staff, so they'll get an opportunity to talk about how they're feeling as a staff in the building, what needs they maybe see, and then we'll do 2 meetings with building administrators. One of them really allowing for hopes and dreams. Right? What programs maybe don't you offer that you would really like to, or where are you feeling there's a need that maybe doesn't show up on paper? And so we are getting that personal perspective data too. That's really important. And then so they'll all have an opportunity to share their feelings from their individual sites.
I think that personal perspective is really important to round out the data elements. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, 5.11, summer projects for 2026. Joel and Josh.
Yeah, so I'll go first and at least just hit the one that we're looking for action on here this evening, and that is in regards to the asbestos abatement project that we'd like to complete in the high school gym. We know there's some other projects that are happening throughout the district that Josh has already presented that he can answer questions on tonight if you have them, but those have already been approved and they've moved through bidding process. This is one that we do have to move kind of quickly on. I know it's only January, but many of these projects are getting bid right now because everybody wants their work done in June, July, and August. And so Jeff Elstead, the person that we're working with through SiteLogic, was at Operation Committee last week and had walked that committee through some options. I believe that committee gave some of their feedback that I can share, and then I'd encourage anyone else that was there to share theirs as well. But we're really looking at focusing any high school projects to that gym, abatement of the ceiling, getting all of that dangerous material out of there, a reshaping of that catwalk, a removal of the lights that are no longer used that were there back when the high school gym was where performances for theater performances were taking place. Those are no longer used. They haven't had power to them for many, many years. They'll get new lighting, making sure that space, since we're up in the ceiling, gets that really refresh, making sure we have the right lights for the right space. Since we're doing all of that work, we're looking for authority to include repainting from the floor to the ceiling, so it's all the same color. If you go look in there right now, it's different color from the floor to about 6 or 7 feet, and it's a different color to the rest of the ceiling. Also, while they're up there, in feedback through Mr. Dale, our AD, our auxiliary nets, the basketball hoops that run parallel to the main floor, should actually run perpendicular if you're going to run 2 smaller games at the same time. And so in talking with Jeff, he feels it's going to actually be quite simple to remove the brackets, turn them 90 degrees, and have them run the perpendicular way. Am I missing anything else?
I think you covered everything.
Yeah, and we might.
Important note too, we have been working with Mr. Dale. He's been in communication with some of the other buildings regarding some of the summer sports activities that typically occur in that gym. We do have plans for that, and we are making some tentative plans. We hope we don't have to use them, that there is a potential that even the fall activities might be affected due to the work in the gym. So we're trying to plan ahead for some of those possibilities, but we hope they're done so volleyball and some of those things are ready to roll in August.
So for full clarity, the abatement and the replacement ceiling all falls under an abatement LTFM above the line. And so that project, along with the lighting, is estimated at just over 900,000. And then we're looking for a little bit of extra funding to do the painting, do the movement of those basketball hoops. Truly, since we have the people here and we have the equipment here, it is the most cost effective to do it all at once and do it right. Knowing again that our gym is a kind of a regional hub for some big events, and we know that many local high schools really enjoy playing here, so making it a premier site in the area is also important.
So would we be looking at roughly $1 million? I mean, I'm sure painting ain't gonna be 100,000, but that's kind of what you're thinking?
Correct. Yeah. Now, the other piece that did come up at committee was the LED lighting for the entire building. Knowing that many members of Josh's building and grounds team have been doing some replacements of those as we've gone. We do know that there's one location of the building that hasn't been touched, and that's the north wing. And so the question is do we want to have them, while they're doing the lights in the gym, do a retrofit of the north wing and have that done, or do we want to pause on that, really focus on the gym, and do a more of an audit of the whole district, knowing that our team really does know if a light goes bad, we can replace it on our own, put the new lights that meet the law. Jeff did verify for me yesterday that regardless of how we want to do it, if we decide to do the north wing now and then do a larger project later, that wing can join into the energy savings plan that he presented. It doesn't all have to happen at the same time, or we could wait and do it all at once if and when we choose to. So.
Do you have a rough cost on that?
I do. A complete retrofit, their estimate is between $500,000 and $600,000 for the building.
So if we were to do the lighting, we'd be looking at about 1.6.
Yeah, knowing that about $1 million is in an above the line bond.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, say we do run into scheduling conflicts. If they don't, where would we use? Would we use intermediate? Would we use Minnesota West?
Say that again.
The backup plan if the gym isn't done in time for fall sports.
So if it came down to actual varsity games, Mr. Dale is working with Minnesota West, so we have a competitive spot. In terms of practices, we have access at the intermediate building, and then Prairie's not having summer school because of the roofing project there, but the gym space technically could be used for practices during the summertime.
Yeah.
But games would be at the college.
Okay.
Is this then the last asbestos in the district? Is the gym there or
I
finished?
believe so. Through their assessment, it sounds like this is
is
what's
it.
left. Yeah.
Thank you.
So are we gonna ear tag in the motion a certain dollar amount or
I'm looking for scope of project.
the project?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Joel, could you talk a little bit about the energy savings plan and how that works with funding the light retrofitting projects?
Yeah, so the way it was presented at committee is essentially for the lighting project. As a district, we front the payment for that project. It then enrolls into the energy savings project as well. And you get kind of two parts. You get your instant rebates from Minnesota Public Utilities, through the electrical companies. We would get an instant rebate. And then over time, you're going to see those savings. The estimate from SiteLogic that they had presented is that it would take about 15 years to see all of those funds back into the district. So if we did the whole district, the dollar amount I think for everything on their plan was about 2.6 to do it all, right? That includes the gym ceiling. Their estimate is that we'd see that back in a 15-year time period. It was one of the comments at committee was, do we have greater needs to put those funds into right now, knowing that we are taking care of some of the issues on our own as we're going? And do we do the gym project now, give ourselves more time to look at full scope of all of our needs moving forward? And so.
Okay. So I guess the first motion I would ask for is the high school gym improvements on its own, if you guys agree with that. Can we have two, so we should be able to have two separate motions?
Sure.
If you guys want to do the lighting, I'll be honest, I don't, but.
And there doesn't need to be a motion. Administrative recommendation right now would be to focus on the high school gym, get that project taken care of, do a full audit. The lighting team from SiteLogic still hasn't been here to do the full, so, right, they're making their estimates based on the initial walkthrough. And so our recommendation would be to approve the high school gym project as presented, giving ourselves some more time to continue to look at further projects down the line.
Mr.
Your
Chairman,
recommend-
move to approve the high school gymnasium project as presented.
Okay, we got a motion by Matt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, a question, clarification. This will include the lighting improvements in the gymnasium?
In the gymnasium, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
As a whole. Okay.
That was my question,
Oh,
too.
okay.
Also, just a comment that the gym is also used for performing arts, still music, so acoustic.
Absolutely.
An assessment of the acoustic on the ceiling would be.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't bring that up. So we asked them to do that.
Okay.
The material that they're proposing to use is absolutely meant for taking all that into account. And so Jeff can provide more detail of what that is. That's kind of over my scope, but we did ask him to keep that in mind with the replacement product.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not to get our hopes up, but he thought the material he had found would come in slightly less than the budget he proposed. So cross our fingers.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll save some money. But yeah, he's looking at that. I don't know if he has a gym that they use it in that we could get a reference from. Did we ask about that?
No, but I can ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
If it's okay, Mr. Bloom, I'd like to just put it here that we would like to propose a second work session in the early part of March to talk projects 2027, because those will come quickly into the summer and early fall next year. And so wondering if we could set a work session 2 weeks prior to the March meeting just to talk projects for 2027.
Okay.
What would that date be?
That would be
Third.
Be the
Yep.
3rd?
March 3rd.
March 3rd?
The Tuesday, right?
It's a Tuesday.
Does March 3rd work for everybody at this point in time? To set a
What?
date for a work session?
I would have rehearsal till 5:50, but yes.
Start at 6:15, normal
that'd
board meeting time. 6:15, March 3rd.
Okay, there.
I might have a
Works.
planning commission meeting that night, but I would have a planning commission meeting that night, actually,
What time is that, Aaron?
7.
Is there another night that week that works for anybody?
Could we do the second? That's a Monday night. Second work?
I'd rather go later in the week.
Mr. Chairman, could we have some just dates emailed to us and we,
Yeah, that's fine.
Go that
Email us
process,
some
please.
dates and we'll just send them back.
thank you.
Fine. Okay. Okay.
Additional question on just to clarify, because we discussed a committee, other projects for the summer, but we didn't really act on those, but they're still on the queue to be completed?
For this summer?
Yes,
That would be the softball light.
the lesser projects, but do they need any formal approval now?
We'll
or-
use currently allocated funds to take care of the softball light, the light issue where they're leaning. We're going to fix those to make them safer. And then you've already acted on the prairie roof.
Talked about some of the water issue here and some drift issues.
They're still investigating water issues here. They're pretty confident they're probably not going to dive too deep into that right away. They need to investigate more. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, 6.0 reports, superintendent's report.
All right, I'll try to keep it brief here as this meeting's gone long, but lots going on throughout the district, many things that are taking lots of energy and capacity for all of us. I did want to take a brief moment just to share one thing that maybe people don't know a lot about, and that is a comprehensive needs assessment, or a CNA, that many members of the district have been engaged in throughout the fall and the winter. The work we've been doing has been focused on carefully analyzing and building analyzing district and building level data, engaging in discussion around the effectiveness of our current district and building specific initiatives, and identifying strengths and areas for growth across our system. These conversations have been intentional, reflective, and grounded in a commitment and a desire to improve outcomes for students. As this phase of the CNA process continues, the work will soon transition into examining our sites and staffing, as Carmen shared tonight. This will be an important step in ensuring our structures and staffing models are responsive, sustainable, and aligned with district priorities. I want to just say that I'm grateful for the commitment shown by our building principals, our coordinators, and other district administration. They've definitely leaned into this work with focus, openness, and a willingness to challenge assumptions and serve as continuous improvement. This CNA process will directly inform the next phase of our work, which is strategic planning for the district as a whole. During that phase, we'll intentionally broaden our engagement to include additional staff perspectives as well as community members, ensuring that our strategic direction reflects shared ownership and diverse input. So much more to come, but proud of the work we've done so far.
Okay, good, Joel.
I'm good.
Instructional committee. Anybody other than myself that was there?
Everything's been covered.
Okay, we're good there. Operations committee, do you have anything to add?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, good there. Other reports? Anyone else have anything else?
Just, so Darla and Ann and I, along with Joel, attended MSBA last Thursday and Friday. I find that to be a very valuable experience, and I attended many sessions, as I know my colleagues did. Some interesting things about AI, strategic planning, attendance, student achievement, etc. I did attend the legislative session and extend an invitation to all of you to our day at the Capitol is on March 8th. It's a Monday.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna add something. Matt, you had asked earlier about when we had the special ed report, and I promise I won't take a bunch of time, but you had asked about parent input. So being a parent of a special ed student, I am gonna tell you that not having a director this year has been the best year that I've seen our daughter with improvement. So I mean, I see Jill here. I think that speaks volumes of what you've done with this team, just being the assistant, working with an intern. I mean, in the intermediate school staff that my daughter works with, they've just been really super. She's always happy after school. She's excited to go to school. Where previous years there was not as good of coordination. She would be excited one day, not excited the other. When the van pulls up this year in the driveway, she's always ready to go, and she runs away from me. So that didn't happen before. So I want to thank all of you. Jill, you've done a great job. Other staff, Michelle's here. I know there's others, but no, thank you. As a parent, I think that we're headed in the right direction, and we'll do a good job. Okay, so other business, adjust regular board time, talking with Joel. Didn't sound like we were too interested in that at this time, is that correct? Let's just leave it and we'll revisit it maybe this summer. Next would be negotiations update.
Sure, I can provide just a brief one. We've met, I believe, maybe just one time since our last meeting. We've got 2 more meetings on the agenda, one of them happening later on this week on Friday. In our last session, we've really narrowed language down to, I believe, 4 items. So we're real close on that. We've got 2 MOUs we're working through. I think we can can finish those up here quickly. And at this point, we are total package 0.5% apart. So hopeful that we can meet some common ground here real soon and wrap this up for everyone.
Okay, anybody from the negotiating committee got anything to say? Okay, we covered the work session. Did we send in dates? Okay, future business, anybody have anything? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Darla.
Second.
Do I have a second? Second by Lori. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Adjourned.